Hi, this is Ian Pettigrew, and today I'm with Tim Scott, or those of you that know him on Twitter might know him as Tim Scott HR. We're doing a series of Google Hangouts to just let people know what to expect from the Social HR conference we're running in Manchester on the 16th of October. We're not actually doing this as a hangout today because I'm in the same room as Tim, so we're doing this filmed from my iPhone. So, Tim, good
Hello.
to see you today.
Good to see you today.
And can you introduce yourself? Just tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I certainly can, yeah. I am Tim Scott. I am a Chartered Fellow of the CIPD. And I'm an HR generalist, basically, by trade. I've spent 17 years in working in HR in various HR and L&D roles. I sort of started out in L&D in the voluntary sector, moved through sort of some other HR roles, and then found my niche really in being a generalist. As I say, mainly voluntary sector and small to medium enterprises is my background. My first role was very operational. It was managing a sort of education and arts centre. I took them through Investors in People, partly as a ruse to get more funding, but actually I found that was really exciting, and I got, even in the old days of IIP when it was all paperwork and portfolios, I found that really putting in place things which made a difference to the business and made the business more successful, and sort of helped the people develop. Those were the things that got me excited, and that's what started me on this journey, really. I joined Twitter, must be getting on for 2 years ago, and that was the start of, I guess, a bit of a journey for me in terms of the joining the social HR world, and I haven't really looked back since.
So tell us a bit about that then, the social HR world. You smiled when you said it. What's social HR done for you personally? How's social media changed things, just thinking about you?
Massively, absolutely massively. For me personally, I've used this phrase before, it blew apart my cosy HR world and then put it back together again for me. I think I was at the point where I've been doing sort of HR stuff in a particular way, and you get into a groove, someone might call it a rut, of looking at the world in a particular way. And suddenly what I was finding was I was getting access to people with completely polar opposite views, or with views I'd never even considered about how HR should be done, about ways of managing people, ways organisations could work, should work, and I'm just being exposed to all those new ideas. As I say, it just blew my world apart, really. I thought I wouldn't say I thought I knew everything there is to know, but I thought I had my approach, and I thought that was kind of set, and to some extent I got a bit jaded, if I'm honest, and I was beginning to think maybe sort of HR generalism isn't for me after all. Maybe I got it wrong, and actually this exposure to people with real innovative ideas and real passion, which is a word not everyone likes applying in a business situation, but I think people with a real sense of how important what we do is on a day-to-day basis, and that really just remotivated me. I sort of say I got my mojo back through mainly through interacting with people on Twitter, but that was the starting point, and it was almost the catalyst then for me to get involved in other things like this. For example, we met on Twitter, and then you go on to meet people in real life and find out that actually they're not that different to how they appear on Twitter. And I'm not a natural networker in the traditional business sense.
You could have fooled me.
No, definitely not. And I've never liked that slightly forced networking. Here's my business card, here's your business card. What can we do for each other? To me, on using the sort of social techniques, if they are techniques, it just happens much more organically.
So why is it different? Why is networking with the kind of the Twitter crowd, for want of a better phrase, why is that different to what I think you call traditional networking?
Yeah, I suppose there's something about the traditional networking that kind of really forced. You're in a room, you're all almost projecting a persona, and I suppose we do that online to an extent, but there seems to be a lot more room for authentic and genuine communication, and people not necessarily looking for anything from anybody else, other than just sort of feedback, input, discussion, debate, and an interest in what other people are doing. And to me it's gone beyond networking now to when I check Twitter in the morning, it's more to see what my mates are doing than it is to read the latest thinking on a particular HR topic. And I suppose there's a kind of journey that a lot of people go on, and that's exactly what I've done. Is to go from I don't get Twitter to oh okay I kind of get it, to I'm reading lots of really interesting stuff. This is really cool. To meeting people for the first time in real life, and then so you I suppose it is to an extent like formal networking, but you've got the backstory. When I meet people from Twitter, I feel like I know them already. And you can talk about their family and where they went on holiday and that kind of thing. So it's a very different experience.
So Twitter and the people you've met through it sounds like it's rejuvenated things for you, helped you rediscover your mojo, connected you into different networks and opportunities. So if it's done that for you, what does social on a wider basis? What does it, and what can it do for HR?
I think it can completely revolutionise the way you think about HR and the way HR works. It can do. In and of itself, Twitter is just a technology. Like anything, it'll do as much or as little as you let it do. And that's true, I think, of all the various bits of software and hardware and whatever. They're tools. It's how you use them. But the key things for me, it's made it so much easier to share ideas, discuss, debate, have that interaction, throw stuff out there to see what people think about it. I do that with my blogging. So after I'd been on Twitter for a while, I wanted more than 140 characters to express things. I started writing blogs, and then that is you sort of initiating a debate or joining in a debate, and then getting feedback from other people and other perspectives. So there's that whole way of just developing your own thinking, and developing, if you like, your philosophy, which I think is really important. I think the social angle gives much less of a focus on formal learning, on very sort of dry textbook learning. There's a lot more sharing of actual stuff that's happened and stuff that is happening out there. So a lot of real world examples, and it's not sort of reading a theory and thinking how would I apply that. It's like, actually that's a great idea, I could nick that for our business and it would really work well. And I suppose the other thing that social HR has brought is a global perspective. We're not just limited to our local networks anymore. There's a really good example of that in terms of NZ Lead, which is for those people who don't know what NZ Lead is, it's a hashtag, and without getting too much into the nuts and bolts of Twitter, it's become like a movement of people based in New Zealand. And that's very much focused around a discussion held on Twitter about sort of very practical HR stuff and how to deal with it. And for a variety of reasons, in particular time zones and things like that, it actually works quite well that UK people can join in with the New Zealand people, and that kind of the fact we're all sharing very similar issues, even though we are literally other sides of the world. And you're getting that different perspective and different thoughts on it. So, you can be having a Twitter chat with someone in the States, in Australia, in New Zealand, and you can get a totally different perspective. There's quite a lot of interaction with the guys in America, less so probably because of the time zones, but again, you see different perspectives and stuff that I would never have encountered. Reading my CIPD textbooks, for example, or picking up the latest. I'm not a big management book reader, but picking up the latest thing, it just, like I say, it just blows your mind sometimes. That you've got access to all this stuff, as and when you want it, basically.
So social HR, it sounds like it's made a big difference for you personally and organisationally as well. I want to talk about the conference itself. Thursday, 16th of October, we've got a full day. We're calling it a conference, but it's an unconference within a conference, because we've got very few speaking at people, and we've got lots of creating a learning environment in which people can learn from each other. And we've got streams running on L&D, recruitment, social media, and social HR itself, and the social HR streams being led by you and Perry Timms.
It is.
What sort of people would you really want to come along and participate in that social HR session?
I think, well, everyone. It's a bit of a rubbish answer, but I think the beauty of the way that social stuff works is there aren't kind of, you know, it's not set up to have a guru or a thought leader. It's very democratic. So I think if you're remotely interested in HR, in its sort of future direction, in improving what you do as an individual, in improving how your organisation works, then you should come along with an open mind and hear it. I think with some people, social HR is attracting a little bit of baggage at the moment as a concept. But you know, I think to anyone who's never heard it and never thought about it, actually can still have that excitement that I felt when I first found out about it. You know, and just discover something new. You know, maybe you know 90% of this stuff already, but you will always learn something. I will inevitably come away from the conference having learnt a whole bunch of new stuff. You know, don't for one second think because we're leading a section of the conference that we are the know-it-alls, the experts, the go-to people. You know, we've got a piece of the pie. You know, but as I say, for me, I'm going to be learning stuff. You know, from everybody else, and I'm really looking forward to that unconference format.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't going to be death by PowerPoint. There probably isn't going to be any PowerPoint.
Yeah.
You know, and hallelujah for that, I guess.
And what difference do you want the day to make? Like, imagine if a few months after the conference you bump into somebody and you know those experiences where somebody says, I don't know whether you remember this, but you know, it was a profoundly positive experience and it's led to this. What difference do you want the social HR part of this conference and the conference itself to make to people? What do you want people to be saying about it in a few months?
I think those of us who have had an experience a bit like me, and there are lots of people, I'm not in any way unique or special, we get then a bit evangelical about social HR and using social media and that kind of thing. And I will no doubt, and I have absolutely no doubt that Perry Timms will be leading the charge on this. You know, we will be evangelical on the day. We will be enthusiastic and passionate. And I hope that we can share that enthusiasm with people. You know, there may be people there who've never considered this, who were in the space I was in 2 years ago. You know, who are in that kind of HR, you know, I know what I'm doing, is this really for me, can I see myself doing this for another X years? And just maybe we can spark something. You know, they will go on their own, it's a bit X Factor to talk about journey, but you know, they will go on their own journey, you know, which will be different to mine, but you know, hopefully they'll encounter that same sharing of ideas, of passion, of enthusiasm. You know, and when I bump into them into the street, they'll say, I'm so glad I came to that conference. I took so much away from talking to everybody, you know, and it's really given me a different outlook on what I do on a day-to-day basis and what I can do on a day-to-day basis.
And what do you say to somebody who's really cynical? Somebody, you know, I hear this from time to time, the Twitter is for, you know, why would I want to go on Twitter? Because why do I want to know what people have had for breakfast? If somebody's really cynical about this whole social malarkey and is wavering about whether to come and play on the day and have a talk about it, what would you say to them?
I've never yet shared a picture of my breakfast, I don't think. I am guilty of sharing pictures of my lunch now and again. But no, I mean, I think if you want access to the largest pool of management thinking, of HR thinking, of life thinking, you know, then you will find it all through Twitter. And even if you just use it, if you don't want to engage in any of that stuff, and some people don't, and I understand that, but if you want access to that potential, it's all there for you, and it's so easily accessible, and you know, you don't have to learn a new language or do anything different. You know, it's all available to you. Take advantage of it, I would say, and you might find yourself eventually joining in with some of the other stuff, and you might, who knows, find yourself sharing a picture of your special K the next morning. but no, I think the other thing is that you will build a network of unrivaled expertise, you know, by engaging on Twitter, and you know, because there's so much out there, and so many good things have happened to me, whether by accident or design, since I started doing this. You know, that I'm obviously passionate and evangelical about it. Don't write it off until you've given it a proper go.
And so for people who want to find out more, underneath the video will be links and there'll be interviews with other speakers as well. But just to say, Tim Scott HR, as we know you on Twitter, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Ian.